as someone who's made basically their whole personality out of watching hockey from Scotland, I felt like this was a necessary video. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Victoria, and if you ever wanted to hear about a Scottish girl talking hockey and baseball and all those sort of sports, you're in the right place. I don't know if you guys follow me anywhere else, particularly on Twitter, but for a while now, a lot of my spare time has been spent talking about things that typically aren't talked about in my country, aka hockey. And it has sort of grown into being my main personality trait, and it's still one of the main questions I get asked, like, how does someone even become such a big NHL fan and a big Leafs fan in Scotland? And it's a year since I started my YouTube channel, and my first ever video was talking about being a hockey fan in Scotland, and in that video I sort of like mumble my way through things, but I was very new to this whole world, and now I nearly dropped that coffee, wow. And now I'm a little bit more used to it and comfortable in it. So I thought I would do a chat basically on like the reality of what it's like cheering for hockey, specifically the NHL, over here across the pond in Scotland. So I want to start by saying that honestly, like, the best decision I ever made was deciding that I was going to start watching the sport and the league particularly, and I have no regrets about it. It actually influences what I do now for a job and what I'm going to be hopefully doing as a career. So I'm very thankful that little 16, 17-year-old me decided to really get into hockey. However, the reality is unusual. So let me just preface this by saying that hockey is very much a developing sport over here. It's still growing. We do have professional hockey here in the UK. I will pop up a video right now which is all about the elite league over here in the UK, and if you want more British hockey related content, just let me know, I can definitely do that. However, as much as there is professional hockey, and there's hockey of a few different levels, it's not a sport over here that's seen as mainstream. I mean, I live in like the biggest football / soccer culture you could ever imagine. I was very much brought up in a football loving family, and everybody understands football here, at least to a degree, right? You can't escape it, and it's very, very prevalent in all aspects of our society. Rugby is also extremely popular, and of course, being in Scotland, golf is also incredibly big over here, even though I swear I know more Canadians who golf than I know Scottish people who golf. Someone explain that to me. What is the Canadian obsession with golfing? Can someone please explain it to me? Because I'm not a golfer myself. My boyfriend golfs. He is like the biggest golf fan on the planet, but I personally don't understand the hype. So someone please enlighten me. Why are North Americans so obsessed with the sport of golf? Because I live in Scotland, the home of golf, and I don't quite see the huge hype around it. Hot take. So with all these big infatuations with like sports such as these, there isn't too much room left for the likes of hockey and baseball. Baseball's a slightly different thing, and I would save that for a separate chat, because baseball, I would argue, is possibly even smaller over here than hockey is. But anyway, the NHL itself. Take out the leagues over here and just talk about the NHL for a second. It's not exactly mainstream. Why would it be, right? Like, it doesn't belong to here. I'm not expecting it to be mainstream. And the biggest reality of being an NHL fan in Scotland is the time difference. You can't escape it. Most games start at 7 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to talk Eastern time here because I'm a Leafs fan, and so I partially live 5 hours behind me than I should do. So there's a 5-hour time difference between here and any of the teams that play in the Eastern time zone, which means that most puck drops are 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's midnight here. So you can imagine the pain of that. Go over west and it's even worse. They're like 3 AM puck drops. Absolute hell. When the Leafs are on a West Coast road trip, I'm screwed. I hate it. So the reality is, my sleeping pattern is very much messed up by watching the NHL. It's not the best, like when there's the occasional early game it is so much better, however in my eyes it's still very much worth it, and I do watch at least some of as many games as I can, especially when things get busy like they have been lately. I definitely have only watched maybe 2 periods of the game and I've unfortunately fell asleep for the third, but I try my best. It's hard because sometimes you feel like a fake fan, because there's sometimes when it's just not feasible that I stay up. If I've got an exam the next day, if I've got just maybe a really hard work shift, like I need to go to sleep on time. Like I can't stay up until 3 AM watching the game as much as I want to. But it makes you feel a little bit like a fake fan, because I see these other fans on Twitter who live in Canada or America, and obviously they can go to a lot of the games and they certainly watch them all, and so it sometimes makes you feel like a little bit of like you're conning people a little, which I know is just ridiculous, because anyone who is dedicated enough to even try and stay up to that time definitely isn't a fake fan, but it's tough nonetheless. And also the FOMO, like you feel like you're missing out so much if you miss any of the game because you fell asleep. That is a harsh reality. Which also leads into, obviously when you watch sports, a lot of the people that you then have in your community are also watching sports, and sometimes I'm very lucky. I know a lot of people from Twitter in particular who are the nicest people, and I'm so glad to have met them. And when I went over to Toronto for the first time in November, I did get to briefly meet quite a lot of people that I have on Twitter, and it was so nice because they were just you guys are the loveliest people ever, I swear. I'm so blessed. But it's tough because sometimes that fear of missing out means that you struggle to keep up with what people that you're maybe in group chats and stuff with are saying, because you had to go sleep because it was 3-4 AM in the morning, you know? And as much as a lot of my friends are hockey fans, most of them don't stay up most of the night watching NHL, which is completely fair enough. They go to the games here, they maybe have an NHL team who they'll like follow like when they can, which is fair enough, but people are busy, right? People can't stay up all night watching a league that's 5 hours, possibly more, behind where we are. So I understand why the NHL isn't bigger across here, because it's difficult to watch. But it's a shame because I love the NHL so much and I just want more people to watch it. But it's really tough because I know for people to watch it they're going to have to lose a lot of sleep, and most people can't do that, understandably so. But sometimes it means that I'm trying to talk about like maybe like the Leafs game last night, and like barely any of my friends from across here will have seen the whole game. So then the reality is, you want to see your team actually in person, or even just in the right time zone, you have an expensive trip to pay for. I was very lucky that I got the opportunity to go and see the Maple Leafs play for the first time ever just at the end of last year, which was the best experience ever, and I want to go again so badly, guys. Like I loved visiting. I'd love to visit again as soon as I possibly can, but the planes aren't cheap. They're really not cheap, and Toronto itself is not cheap either. So the reality is, it's very, very expensive to just go see NHL teams, and I have a bucket list where I want to go to every single NHL rink, and so only Scotiabank ticked off so far, but I want to go to all of them. That's a big thing of mine that I want to do in my lifetime, but it's very expensive, is my point. The final reality I'll touch on here is that sometimes people think you don't know the game as well, because people assume that when you live across here, especially in Scotland where it's not big, what the hell is this random Scottish girl going to know about the sport? Which I understand, but I also do spend a lot of my time watching the sport and researching, and my job now is actually, I work freelance in sports marketing now. That's an important life update. And so a lot of the stuff I do is based around the sport, and I can promise that I do know it just as well as people across the pond do. I promise I do. However, people do have the initial doubt because they kind of think it's not big over there, so why would they have a good understanding of it? Which, like, some of us do, I promise. Understandable concern for people to have, but also, like, be nice, and also don't gatekeep, because sport should be for absolutely everybody, and I think that's a very important thing, and that includes different geographical areas, and people of all backgrounds should be able to watch the sport and enjoy it. And so despite all of these just literal realities of being an NHL fan across here, I still love it. As I said at the start, it's the best thing ever. It makes me really happy. It makes me a little tired at times, but really happy. I love what I do for a living. I wouldn't do what I do for a living if it wasn't for the fact that I started watching the NHL all those years ago. So I'm incredibly grateful for it. I enjoy it so much, and the people I've met are just amazing. They're the best people ever. So I'm very grateful, and despite all of the hard things that come, end of the day, I chose this. It's not like anyone forced me to, so there's only so far you can complain. And I don't want anyone to think this is a video complaining, because it's definitely not, I promise you. Like, I love it, I wouldn't change it for the world. However, I do get asked a lot about what it's like being an NHL fan in Scotland, and so while there are many good points, I thought I'd highlight the realities. So that is all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below on any future videos that you want, or if you want to ask anything about watching hockey across the pond, anything, comment it down below. Make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and also subscribe for more hockey content from across the pond, and I will be back very soon. Bye guys.